Good afternoon. Are you a shepherd? If you're living downtown in some big city, you probably think you have nothing to do with all these sheep animals. And yet, I think you'll find you're involved somehow if I tell you about it. See, a shepherd is someone who looks after other people. He's the guy that kind of teaches, instructs, leads. He loves his people. He wants to protect them. So if you are a parent of a young child, and I think you'd agree you're a shepherd. If you have people who work for you at work and you have a group of them, you're a shepherd. If you're pastoring a church and you have a congregation, doesn't matter if you got 10 or 1,000, you're a shepherd. I think every adult is a shepherd in one way or another with all your friends and the people around you. Now, if you're only a 6-year-old and your whole life is just getting through recess so you can get to lunch, I suppose you're not a shepherd, but all the rest of us are shepherds. The shepherd is described as a great thing in the Bible. I mean, the Lord is our shepherd. I shall not want, it says in Psalm 23. And yet, even though there's some really great things said about shepherds, the Bible also warns us about shepherds as well. If you go back in the Bible, 400 years before Jesus was even born, Zechariah was a prophet, and he was talking about this area of shepherds. In chapter 11, he started off by talking about Lebanon. And Lebanon has a city called Sidon, and Sidon is the home of an area where there was a lot of worship of pagan things. And so we have a situation where he's talking about some evil things. Matter of fact, the evil things that happened in this pagan religion were so bad that it goes on to say in the Bible, the sound of the wail of the shepherds for their glory is ruined. The glory of the shepherd is the success and the victory of the people you're shepherding. But that's not going to happen when there's pagan rituals and worshiping taking place. And so what happens next, he then describes for the reader what a shepherd is that's not for your good. Now, I read it to you. He said to this particular person, he said to a certain person, "Thus said the Lord my God, become a shepherd of the flock, doomed to slaughter." Oh, that doesn't sound very good, does it? "Those who buy them slaughter them and go unpunished. And those who sell them say, Blessed be the Lord, I have become rich." So there's talking about some people who are shepherds. That's their whole aim in life, is really to not protect somebody. And their aim in life is really to get rich on people, to use other people, not to train them up, not build them up, just hurt them. So it goes on to say this, and he uses a certain person as an example. "So I became the shepherd of the flock, doomed to be slaughtered by the sheep traders. And I took 2 staffs, one I named Favor and the other I named Union, and I tended the sheep." So he had 2 staffs, a rod and a staff. And one he called Favor, because it was supposed to be something that it signified he was going to give favor to the people that he was shepherding. He was going to protect them. He was going to make sure they succeeded. He was going to help them along. He was going to instruct them in all the good things to lead them to righteousness. And the other one was Union. He wanted everybody to be united together, all for their happiness and their joy. So he had these 2 things. He starts off well, right? Then it starts to tell what he does. He says, "In 1 month I destroyed the other shepherds. I became impatient with them, and they also detested me." Whoa, 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 whoa. Then he goes on to say, "And I took my staff Favor, and I broke it, annulling the covenant that I had made with all the people." He didn't care about the people anymore, did he? "So that was annulled on that day, and a sheep trader was there, and they watched me, and they knew this was happening. Then I said to them, If it seems good to you, give me my wages, but if not, keep them. And they weighed out my wages, 30 pieces of silver. Then the Lord said to me, Throw it to the potter, the lordly price at which I was priced by them. So I took the 30 pieces of silver and threw them into the house of the Lord to the potter. Then I broke my second staff, Union, annulling the brotherhood between Judah and Israel." You're hearing the story 400 years before Jesus came to this earth. You're hearing the story of Judas Iscariot, the man who betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. That's right, and he threw that money into the house of the Lord. Exactly foretold in the Bible 400 years before it ever happened. Now, move over to the good stories of shepherds. And we can go to the book of Luke chapter 15, but actually go back to the end of chapter 14. And there it's talking about salt, and salt's good. It has flavor to it. It has good taste. But once it loses its taste, it's good for nothing, it says. You can't even throw it into a manure heap. It won't help the manure heap. I mean, it's good for nothing. And as he's telling this story, the next thing that comes out is the beginning of chapter 15. And here, all the sinners and the tax collectors, all the people who are hated, they're all attracted toward Jesus. Why? Because he's full of salt. I mean, he's got everything. He attracts them. But the religious people, they're saying, well, what are you doing? You can't feed people. You can't do all this like you're doing. So Jesus tells them 3 stories. The first one he tells them about is a shepherd. And a shepherd has 100 sheep. And one of them gets lost somewhere. And he leaves the 99 to go find the one. Can you imagine that? He's telling them the one is just as important as the 99. If you're a shepherd, you look after everybody you're shepherding. Everybody. You don't let anybody go astray. There's a funny thing that people tell this story, and they say that the shepherd, that people hear, he recognizes his voice. That's true. Even my dog recognizes my voice. Another story I've heard many times is that the shepherd breaks the leg of the sheep so that the sheep has to depend on him and will understand his voice. What a bunch of malarkey. That's not even in the Bible. It's not even done by shepherds, by the way. You can check on them. They don't do that kind of thing. That would be crazy. But people preach it. Don't listen to those kind of stories. But another parable he talks about is the parable of a woman who has some silver coins. She's got 10 of them. She loses it. And she's looking everywhere for it. When she finally finds that one lost coin after the 9 are lost, she's rejoicing. And finally, there's 2 sons that a man has. And the one son has stayed with him, but the other son has left him, taken all his money. He's just been a horrible son. But he comes back. And he's rejoicing because his son is back. He's throwing a big party. What's the reason for all these parables to these religious people? You tell them you got to be a good steward. Instead of the 99, you've got to go for the 100. Instead of the 9, you've got to go for the 10. Instead of the 2, instead of the 1, you have to go for the 2. Whoever you are shepherding, shepherd them well. Protect them. Love them. Don't shepherd people for money. Don't shepherd them so that you can hurt them later on. Stay with people. Be a good shepherd. See you next week. Bye for now.